All right, so it looks like we got a fair amount of people. So we'll get started. Again, my name is James Doom. I'm a sales manager with Quadbridge, and thank you for attending another episode of our Die and Develop series, where we bring you some of the cool technologies and some of the great partners we've been working with to provide all of our clients and prospective clients different IT solutions in the industry. Today's presentation is by Cologix. I have Adam and Craig on the phone. They'll be presenting from Cologix, but as always, if you have any questions about anything you see during the presentation and you want to do a follow-up call or get additional information or a quotation on any of their offerings, just reach back to your Quadbridge account manager and they can have a direct line to the team at Cologix. So with that, I introduce Craig and Adam. I believe, Adam, you're up.
Yeah, great. I appreciate that. Thanks everybody for taking a few minutes out of your busy day to chat with us and learn a little bit more about Cologix. So my name's Adam Deacon. I'm one of the senior account directors here at Cologix, managing Quadbridge from a sales enablement perspective. In Toronto, and I've been with the company for just over 4 years now. So again, glad to have you all dialed in here for the session this afternoon. So I think it's important to just give you guys all a high level kind of about Cologix before we kind of dive into the specifics. But really, Cologix is a network neutral North American data center platform. We started back in 2010 with just one facility in one market. Through a series of acquisition activities and our own growth, we've been able to extend into 10 strategic North American markets with 32 facilities across those markets. Within all of those facilities, we give access to a number of networks. So you'll see right here that we've got about 450 or just over 450 networks. You know, because we're network neutral, that means that there's no Cologix branded bandwidth or Cologix branded IP services. So what's important is that we give our clients access to networks that they're using. So by being network neutral, we've attracted over 450 networks. All of these networks are available within any of the Cologix data centers for you to connect with. Taking that one step further, we have something we call the Cologix Access Marketplace. And really what this solution allows you to do is connect to any one of the cloud hyperscalers. So as we go down here, we'll drill into this a little bit more, but Cologix 1.0 is really all about network density. Cologix 2.0 is really all about cloud hyperscale density. We don't really like calling ourselves just a data center company because we're really much more than that. Really, we're an interconnectivity hub or an interconnection ecosystem where buyers and sellers of IT services and solutions can all connect with one another. We've got over 13,000 interconnections within our platform. And on average, each one of our clients leverages at least 10 connections to either network service provider, cloud hyperscalers, or other Cologix customers and clients. We're lucky enough to host 6 internet exchanges across North America. Today, we've got just over 2 million square feet of data center capacity across those 32 facilities in 10 markets, which I'll drill down to in a little bit here in a few minutes. And we've also got some hyperscale data centers. So through an acquisition of Cologix, which I know a lot of folks in Montreal are familiar with, which happened last year, we've got access now to those big hyperscale type facilities. So really the point here is that we've kind of got the best in breed of all type of facilities. We've got those low latency network dense facilities or telecom hotel facilities, but we've also got the big hyperscale facilities built out today. You know, it's all about uptime, and really, you know, 5 nines is not really enough anymore. It's got to be 100%. So really we offer 100% uptime across our platform for all of our services. We've got over 1,600 customers, and across the platform, we operate with just over 250 employees, excuse me, across 10 strategic markets with our head office down in Denver, Colorado. So that's Cologix at a high level. Let's take a look a little bit more about the specific footprint in the platform itself. So these are the markets that we play in today. In Canada, we're in the 3 primary markets of Vancouver, Toronto, and Montreal. In the States, we're kind of Central America and East Coast. You'll see here we've got Dallas, Minneapolis, Columbus, New Jersey, Ashburn, Jacksonville, and Lakeland. So this is where we have data centers built out today. You'll see the number inside of those circles is how many data center facilities we've actually got deployed up and running in those markets today. So really the strategy in each market is the same. I think it's really important to understand, you know, where we fit in the market and where we play in the market. So let's just talk about Toronto, or let's talk about Canada for a second. So really our strategy is to build out as much space and power in whichever building or data center is seen as the telecom hotel of that market. So in Vancouver, that's 555 West Hastings. In Toronto, it's 151 Front Street West. And in Montreal, it's 1250 Rene Levesque. So because we're network neutral, we want to have all that dense network connectivity in that telecom hotel. So like I said, we build out as much space and power as we can. Taking Toronto as an example, we're actually the lion tenant at 151 Front Street West. We've got the most floor space deployed there and the most available space there in that building. So once we've got that network density and diversity in the telecom hotel, we always build out additional facilities that are close enough that we can connect the facilities with our own Cologix Metro Connect ring, but often are far enough that they can be used as a secondary site or a DR facility. So what we see here is we've got a good mix of those low latency, downtown, highly connected facilities with carrier grade annex facilities or hyperscale facilities that are kind of scattered around, the greater area of that metropolitan area, and really give you the best of all data center capacity and flavors that are available. So that's really our strategy in each one of the markets. In Montreal, 1250, like I said, is the carrier hotel, and then we've got another 10 facilities on top of that that all connect back there for that carrier density. So the really nice thing to point out here is that no matter which facility you're in market, you can actually connect to the other facility to pick up carriers available in that facility. So taking Toronto as an example, again, 151 Front being the carrier hotel, has access to about 350 carriers. Whether you're in that carrier hotel or another Cologix facility in that market, we can always connect you to those carriers via 151 Front Street. So it's not as important today of which facility you're in. As long as you're in one of the Cologix or highly connected facilities, you have access to all of that network. Taking that one step further now, and what's really important here is that we've enabled this with the cloud as well. So if you take a look at the small dots under each market, those colored dots represent connectivity or on-ramps to the cloud hyperscalers. You'll see those on the left here. So AWS, Azure, Google, Oracle, and IBM. Those are all the cloud on-ramps that we have that allow our clients to directly and privately connect to those cloud hyperscalers via Cologix. So in Montreal, you'll see that all 5 are available. In Toronto, you'll see 4 of 5 are available, soon to be 5. In Vancouver, you'll see that 2 are available. So let's just talk to that a bit. So in Vancouver, you'll see that we've got AWS and Azure on net directly connected through any one of the Cologix Vancouver facilities. Now, if a client came to us and said, well, we need to connect to Google, we can still get them to Google because CAM, the Cologix Access Marketplace that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail in a few minutes, has the ability to connect to any one of the other facilities to pick up any one of those cloud on-ramps. So no matter which facility, the same way it works for network, no matter which facility you're in Cologix, as long as you're in a Cologix facility, we give you access to those networks and we give you access to those cloud hyperscalers. Just talking a little bit more about this. So, Cologix 1.0 was really about network density. We knew that if we brought in all of these networks, other clients who needed to connect with them would want to come use Cologix to do so. So like I said earlier, we've got 450 networks on net with Cologix through our 32 facilities across 10 markets. We host 6 internet exchanges. So that was really Cologix 1.0. Enter Cologix 2.0, which is kind of where we're in, maybe just transitioning out of this phase. This is now not only that network connectivity, also giving our clients access to scalers on private connectivity links as well. So really, maybe I'd say 5-6 years ago, as a data center operator, we went through a decision point or a very pivotal moment when the cloud was really exploding and expanding, and we saw a lot of our clients saying that, oh, we're going to go to cloud only now, and so on and so forth. So there was really a decision point as a data center operator. Are we going to just say, okay, Cologix and data centers are completely separate from cloud and we're just going to compete with them? Or is there some way that we can create a relationship with these cloud hyperscalers and ultimately offer a solution to our clients that's going to be more beneficial than, say, operating either one or the other type scenario? So what we did is we started to create relationships with these cloud hyperscalers. And what we've done is we've allowed them to deploy within our ecosystem, in our data centers across the platform. And when possible, they actually deploy a full hyperscale deployment with us. And where they don't actually do a full hyperscale deployment, at least they deploy an on-ramp with us that allows us to connect our clients to them. So we now have the top 5 hyperscale clouds within the platform, and then we've got another 250 plus smaller private or virtualization companies within the platform as well. So now what we're really seeing is that we've got all the network, we've got all the cloud on-ramps, enter all the healthcare, enterprise, managed service providers, software platforms, financial organizations that need to connect to these cloud hyperscalers and leverage these networks. So Cologix 3.0, which is kind of where we're entering now, is, we're really seeing the 4 walls of the data center come down, and we're just really seeing all of our clients have a need to connect with one another. So, financial services organizations, for example, one of the big Schedule A banks here in Canada, suddenly they're connecting to some fintech software companies that are within the platform. It goes with healthcare providers as well. We suddenly see them connecting to some managed service providers who are offering them a fully managed IT solution, and so on and so forth. So really what we're seeing here is the 4 walls of the data center have come down. All of our clients are in an ecosystem that allows them to connect with one another, and really just deploy their hosted solution, their networks, their cloud strategy in a way that best suits their business. Over to you, Craig, if you wanted to take this innovation slide.
Sure. Thanks, Adam. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Just as a brief introduction, my name is Craig. I'm a solutions architect with Cologix. I've been with the company for just over a year now. Prior to that, though, I was working at Amazon in their cloud division, building their cloud infrastructure in Canada and overseas. And before that, as a IT director in a gaming studio in Montreal. And got a broad background of IT, kind of fits into what we're trying to do with Cologix these days. So this slide here, next wave of innovation, this slide kind of talks about the history and future of 5G and streaming services. And while that's not necessarily the conversation highlight for today, we left it in because it really illustrates an interesting point. As connectivity has evolved, technology has evolved, businesses have found a way to use that to affect changes in the way businesses operate. You guys know as well as anyone that businesses are always looking for additional flexibility and cost savings and a way to take advantage of technology opportunities. And this is just one more thing that's coming down the pipe, with cloud connectivity. Lots of people are talking about hybrid cloud. On the next slide, it's kind of a buzzword. But buzzwords are buzzwords because people are talking about it, and more importantly, lots of people are doing it. Cologix is a carrier-neutral hosting facility, as Adam mentioned, meaning that you choose the carriers and you choose the cloud that you want to do business with. And our Access Marketplace kind of facilitates, your cloud or multi-cloud or hybrid deployments. You can think of our Access Marketplace kind of as a software-defined interconnection point, to your large hyperscalers. And as Adam mentioned, that's growing to include other service providers as well. Our ecosystem is built on a robust Sienna gear. We offer 100% uptime SLA on our cloud connectivity via the Cologix Access Marketplace. And it's kind of a really interesting and unique way to look at multi-cloud and hybrid cloud. So, that brings to mind, are you guys currently co-located with a data center provider? Are you making use of these things? Happy to hear your answers in the polls. And by the way, if you have any questions, please throw them in chat and we'll do our best to get to them. Mm-hmm. So how is the hybrid cloud model supported? I imagine that most people are here today because of the topic of cloud infrastructure, and what makes it interesting for us is we try to find out what drives or is driving your cloud strategy, your migration. The answer, of course, is going to be unique to every business. Is it there to improve outdated infrastructure without CapEx expenditure? Is it an economical way for you to be compliant on certifications, or has it been really your business leadership talking about cloud and economics? Working with Quadbridge and Cologix, we really want to find out the why of your cloud story, and kind of work with you to build a path forward. So how is where are we now? I lost my slide plot.
Cloud and network.
Thank you. So what is Access Marketplace? It's kind of a simple diagram there on the slide. You can see it, on the left you have your home office or your headquarters. In our facility, you would have an access point to the fabric that we're talking about, which is the Cloud Access Marketplace. That could be as big as you want or as small as you want. We do have some interesting options there. But essentially, the fabric itself, as I mentioned before, is built on an optical switching network based on Sienna gear. We have an automation layer in there that you can access via our Cologix portal. Or, if you prefer, you can ask your sales rep to kind of make modifications for you. But essentially, it's a single port or a redundant port, if you prefer, access to the cloud fabric where all these other NNIs or network interfaces for these cloud providers exist. We have two primary elements of the Cologix Access Marketplace, kind of on the next slide. It's either, as I mentioned, a physical port, a single one, or a dual connection, which we send on different paths. Could be different buildings in some cases, definitely different switch gear to different NNIs where the cloud service provider that you're connecting to will also have that same redundancy. So a dual port or redundant port is really a redundant path all the way through, except where it comes to your gear. And you can choose to have that terminating in one piece of gear or any way that you prefer. Cologix, we focus on the layer 1, the layer 2. For us, that's kind of space, power, and the physical cross connect into the fabric. You're still really in control of your network. You manage your network, you manage your traffic. We don't see your traffic. We don't manipulate your traffic in any way. The small exception to that is, we do encapsulate it and send it to the cloud service provider that you're working with. You can think of that as like a stamp on a piece of mail. We stamp it and send it away, but we in no way modify the contents or even view it. So flexibility and choice and configuration, that's kind of what we're going for here. You can combine these things in any way that you want. 1 gig, 10 gig, you can have one of each or both. You can have one or both redundant connections. You can have multiple EVCs over the same port. You can have those spread across different providers, different ports. You're full control. The EVC speeds here, you can see it goes all the way from 50 megs on the low end to 10 gigs on the high end. And really, that's just limited by the cloud service provider that you're working with. Some may not offer 50, some may not offer 500. In most cases, though, we're seeing a very wide range across that. The next slide, it's a little bit of a view of our CAM portal. You can see here that we really focused on the infrastructure and not necessarily design. It's very functional. It's not necessarily, what you'd see on an Apple screen, but, we're quite proud of it. Basically, it allows you to manage your physical connections and your EVCs in any way that you wish. And it's a little bit hard to see. Maybe if you zoom in, you'll be able to see, but basically you have a listing of a physical connection, and underneath that you'll have listed all the EVCs that are hosted on that physical connection. And again, you can configure that as you wish.
Just to double click on this one, just so everyone's aware. So all of these connections are actually on month-to-month terms. So, the way that people used to do this was they'd have a point-to-point connection, physically deployed from their data center or office directly to the cloud on-ramp. They'd have to enter in a 2-year deal to get a good price on that. So we realize that is just not the way to do things anymore. The way that the cloud is going and the way that those relationships with organizations are going, people need the flexibility to A, change that bandwidth on the fly, and B, change where those connections go on the fly. Maybe AWS, is not working the way that they expected. Now they want to try Google. So these are all on month-to-month terms, and they're all completely flexible. So these connections can be spun up in a day's time. You can pull that back the next day if it's not working for you. You can change that bandwidth speed from 100 megs on day 1. At the end of the month, you realize that's not enough. You can change that through this portal on the fly to go up to a gig at that point. So it's extremely flexible. It's extremely dynamic. And it's built to, match what your requirements are the day you need them. So you don't have to commit or oversubscribe to a bandwidth package just to get a better rate on it that you're never going to really use. Start small, grow from there. If you need to scale back, you can. like I said, it's completely flexible and completely dynamic that you can manage on your, that you're not oversubscribing, not overpaying, and really deploying that connectivity the way you need it.
Yeah, great point, Adam. You've seen the slide before. This is kind of our network map. You can see that the network in Canada is sovereign to the network in the US. So if you're a company that requires sovereignty on either side of the border, you can be assured that the fabric is localized to your country. And it's redundant. It shows single lines, but of course those are redundant paths all the way through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I'll jump back in here. So, some of our clients just want to access the data center to get access to that ecosystem and directly connect to either network or cloud providers. So we are a data center company, of course, and we'd love to have your primary data center deployment with us. But perhaps you already have this in your office and you're not ready to move quite yet. Perhaps you're with another provider and you're in a contract that's not going to expire yet. Your foot in the door with Cologix is a product called Standard Connections. What Standard Connections is basically a unit by unit rack of space where you can deploy a switch or routing device in Cologix simply to gain access to our Cologix ecosystem. So you put a switch or router in here, you connect to the networks you need to get back to either your office or your data center on one side. On the other side, you use it to connect to any of those cloud hyperscalers or any of the other Cologix customers. So this is your foot in the door with Cologix. It's called Standard Connections. You take one RU of space or two if you wanted redundant switches or routers in there. We give you redundant power to that switch. We connect you to the Access Marketplace, which gives you access to the cloud hyperscalers. We deploy this for you in that ecosystem, and we connect you back to your WAN network. So this is your easiest way to directly to connect to cloud hyperscalers. I did make the brief example that some people are doing this via point-to-points. This is a lower cost option. It's a more secure option. And based on that flexibility that I outlined earlier, obviously it's a much more flexible option as well. So if you are looking to connect to the cloud, but you're not ready to take a full rack or deploy a full data center environment in the data center, we would put you in Standard Connections. Again, a low cost entry point into Cologix gives you access to that entire ecosystem that we outlined earlier and gets you started with those direct private connections to either network or cloud hyperscalers. And then, of course, just to talk to the data center side, if you did want to deploy full racks with us, of course, we can accommodate full racks. We do full suites as well, private caged environments, and we go up to full floors and full suites as well. So really, there's no customer that's too small for Cologix. They can use Standard Connections to get their foot in the door, and there's no customer that's too big, obviously, with the 2 million square foot of data center capacity across those 32 sites. We kind of have the ability to deploy everyone from small, medium, large, and hyperscale grade as well. So putting it all together, really we like to take a consultative approach. A lot of our clients come to us and just say, we know we need to get to the cloud. We don't know how to do it. So let's sit down. Let's see how you're doing things today. Let's see where we can improve on that. Let's see which markets give you the most benefit, which facilities give you the most access to networks that you're working with, to other customers, to these cloud service providers. Let's talk about the speeds you need to get to them. And we'll just help you put together a program that's going to be best for your business. One that's, again, really flexible and dynamic, that's going to change as your business requirements change, and one that's going to allow you to realize low-cost savings in some cases, but more so just put together the best, most efficient program that's going to work for your business. That brings us to the second poll here. What, if any, IT challenges has your organization faced during the COVID-19 pandemic? It's clearly a very different time. Things have changed a lot over the last 3-4 months. How has this changed your business? What are you thinking about today that you weren't thinking about 3 months ago? So a couple of use cases here. I'll talk to the first one here, and this one really speaks to Cologix Access Marketplace and its flexibility. So we were working with a regional credit union who needed access to IBM Cloud. They also started creating a relationship with AWS and knew that they needed connectivity to AWS. They were originally using point-to-point connections from various offices and branches back to the cloud on-ramps. So we were able to really lower their costs by bringing them onto the Cologix Access Marketplace, giving them a much more flexible solution. They were in like a 2-year term on a 5 gig connection. They really only needed 1 gig, but they wanted to do that just in case. They never got to that just in case scenario. So once they learned with us that you could start at 1 gig, scale if you needed to, scale back if you needed to, that was really the biggest selling point for them. It was going to allow them to be much more flexible than they could have been with direct point-to-point connectivity. So they were able to deploy in the Cologix Access Marketplace. They did this through standard connections at a very low-cost entry point by just putting a switch within our ecosystem and then connecting to Cologix Access Marketplace and ultimately both IBM and AWS. So it fit in their budget. It allows them to grow as necessary, and it allows them to really manage those costs associated with that connectivity going to those cloud hyperscalers.
Thanks, Adam. On first glance, this is a very similar use case, but it's unique in a couple of facets. This was an existing customer. They had a presence in both Toronto and Montreal, and they needed to access 2 different cloud providers, Oracle and Azure. And they had some interesting limitations physically on their gear. They only had a certain amount of ports available, but they needed to make an operational change that would allow them to reconfigure their network kind of on the fly. And so what we were able to do with them is kind of analyze what they're looking at. We were able to connect both physical locations in Toronto and Montreal to the cloud, but we're able to also span a connection to provide redundancy from Montreal to Toronto and vice versa, because they had an edge in Toronto that they're accessing via Azure and in Montreal via Azure, but only one in Oracle from Toronto. And that's just the way they were set up. And working within those limitations, we were able to kind of design a unique leaf and spine deployment for them on our CAM that allowed them to stay compliant according to their operational directives, but also bring up and spin up various instances of VDCs for testing and production, all while managing this on the fly. So it was kind of unique. It utilized that map that we showed you earlier, the connections between these different cities, not only to connect their endpoints on their MPLS network, but also to diversely connect from those points to the cloud and maintain their operational excellence, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So this leads us to our final poll question. Does your organization currently deploy a hybrid cloud model? We're interested to hear. We're interested to hear, what modifications, what changes you'd like to make, or how we could assist you in starting your journey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And hybrid cloud here to us, I think some people might think of hybrid cloud as just a mixture of public and private cloud, but for us, hybrid cloud really is a mixture of both public and private cloud and data center capacity. So a true hybrid cloud co-location model. Okay. So that's what we've prepared for you in the slides. I hope that was informative and straight to the point. I mean, we can talk about these types of things forever, but we wanted to make it easy for you to kind of just follow along, understand who we are, what we do, how you might be able to leverage our data center footprint and our ecosystem to either deploy new rack space in data centers that are highly connected with network and cloud, and more importantly, leverage a true hybrid cloud and co-location model that really allows you to be flexible with that cloud access and allows you to connect to those cloud hyperscalers as you see fit. So I don't know if we're going back to the polls now, Craig, or if we wanted to open it up to questions. If anyone has any questions in the chat box, love to chat about it. Or if there's a way to go back to the polls, we could go back and take a look at what kind of answers we saw and maybe just make some comments on those answers.
Yeah, it looks like we need to answer them to see the results, but for the first one, it seems to be pretty split. So are you currently co-located with a data center provider? It's about a half and half.
Mhm,
Some people saying yes, but not 100% satisfied.
mhm,
And then for the second poll, does your organization currently deploy a hybrid cloud solution?
mhm.
78% said yes, we leverage one or more public cloud platforms.
Great.
And then there's some others that said no.
Great. So, I mean, on that first poll, you're either with another, data center co-location provider, probably a competitor of Cologix. Maybe they don't have the ecosystem built out quite like us. I mean, there are a few that do, but for the most part, not a lot of them have that direct connectivity to all of those networks, all those managed service providers, all those cloud hyperscalers, and a lot of them don't have that type of portal or self-serve model that allows you to manage that cloud access yourself. So if you're currently in another data center that doesn't have these kind of connectivity points, we're happy to chat with you and see what a migration test would look like, what kind of value you would actually get by being in our ecosystem. Assuming that you're not with Cologix and you're not with another data center, then I'm sure that you're probably either full cloud or you're still operating your own data center in an office somewhere. When the time comes, and a lot of people are going that way, they're choosing to outsource that co-location and data center, aspect out of their offices and into a data center somewhere. So we'd love to chat with you about how Cologix could provide value on that side. And I'm just reading Maggie's. I don't know, Craig, do you want to talk to any of those items or elaborate on anything I just said there?
While we're waiting for a question, I mean, we can talk about how we assisted certain government agencies and things like that during COVID. Of course, if you remember back to February, March, when things were just coming out about how the shutdown was going to take place and what effects people were looking at, it was kind of an unknown time at that point. We had a couple of governmental agencies reach out to us and explain that they're spinning up instances in the cloud because they needed to track and plan and have some redundancy in their operations so that they could deal with any inevitability. By introducing them on the cloud, the CAM, I should say, we were able to connect them to their cloud very, very quickly. Typically, the physical connection to spin up, it takes about a 5 to 6 hours to get that physical cross connect up and running. And once that's there, in minutes, you can be connected to your cloud, into your VPCs, to your cloud environment, and scale that however you wish at that point. There's one particular government in the US, a state government that utilized this and was able to move all of their emergency preparedness into one of the clouds over a period of a day and be prepared to escalate this way. So, your challenges may not be the same, but regardless, the cloud is your tool, and we can help you access that any way that makes sense for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just as Adam here again, what I've seen is, since COVID started, obviously everyone's working from home. They need access to those workloads no matter where they're dialing in from. They're not doing it from the office anymore. So we've seen a spike with a lot of our current customers suddenly needed more connectivity to other networks to efficiently serve their clients or efficiently, operate, with their employees. But more so, we've seen that connectivity that's going through these CAM circuits. We've seen that connectivity spike up. So our clients were using, let's say, a 1 gig. Suddenly, they're using a 2 gig or a 5 gig connection. So it's become more important now to be in an ecosystem and in a data center that's highly connected to those networks. And gives you access on a flexible tool to the cloud hyperscalers where you can manage that bandwidth on the fly. So flexibility is definitely key now because of COVID. So that ends up working really well with what we do, and flexibility is key to us. The ability to change on the fly and manage your connectivity as you need is super important to Cologix and Cologix customers. So it's really, we've really seen that kind of actually play out in real live time with the circumstances around COVID.
Just to let everyone know, we usually don't open the line for questions, but prefer to be typed in the chat or the questions box. So if you have any questions, please feel free. Or as I mentioned at the beginning, if you'd like to get more information or pricing or get in touch with Adam directly, just reach out to your Quadbridge account manager, and they'll be happy to set up a follow-up call to be more specific to your use case.
Absolutely.
So we'll leave this open for a bit for questions, if anyone has any questions to type. Doesn't look like it. So I guess if there's anything else, anything you wanted to close out on, Adam or Craig, before we close out the webinar?
Yeah, just to tie things together. So, in summary, Cologix operates 32 data centers across 10 facilities in North America. We are network, cloud, and managed service provider neutral. So we focus on the 4 pillars of data center, the space, the power, the cooling, and the interconnectivity. That's it. That's what we're good at. By focusing on that, we don't compete with the networks. So we have all the networks in the ecosystem. We don't compete with the cloud. So we have it's really just a great ecosystem, where all of those networks reside, where all those cloud hyperscalers reside. So we'd love to chat with you, no matter how big or small your project is. We'd love to learn more about what you're doing today. Would love to talk more about how we might be able to add value to what you're doing today, and ultimately provide you with a great hybrid cloud co-location experience through Cologix.
Perfect. Thank you, Adam.
No problem. Thank you for setting this up. That was great.
No problem. So I guess we'll close it off there. Thank you everyone so much for attending. Stay safe during everything that's going on. And if Quadbridge or Cologix can help you out, solve any issues you're having, feel free to reach out to us. And thanks again for attending, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you all.